Hi everyone, it's Ben Laughter. Something really different today. Recently I did a bunch of paints for our Bathurst 12-hour effort, as well as our upcoming Sebring effort. Designed a new logo for the team and all that stuff. So it prompted a question from one of my teammates, just curious as to how I create those things, what my process is, what tools I use, and you just wanted to sort of see it play out. This might be incredibly boring for many of you. It might be boring objectively, but I thought I'd go ahead and capture it. I won a NASCAR race the other day, the Daytona 500. At least I won my split. I'm not the most skilled oval driver in the world, so it wasn't the stiffest competition, but I did finish first out of 35. I was pretty happy with it, and it kind of inspired me to maybe do a few oval races this coming season. And I thought I'd make a car. For the Daytona 500, I did throw together a really quick paint, which you may have seen in my race recap if you watch that video. But in the short term, I thought I'd just show you where I'm starting from, what kind of design I saw today in some pre-Daytona 500 coverage, and then the process that I'm going to take to sort of put my spin on it and create something from scratch, something new. Now, I'm going to go through some details of setup and process here if any of you are wanting to start painting and just don't know how people do it. I want to show you some of the tricks there to make it easier. First thing, I always go into a test session, not a replay. That way I can use, I'm sure that I'm using the afternoon lighting. It's the best for painting. If you use the night or morning or late afternoon sessions or time frames, then the color messes you up. So always set it up to afternoon first, grab your selected car, throw it on the centripetal circuit, and hit test. So this is going to load into the sim as usual. Obviously for painting surface purposes, I'm not going to use the Oculus. So I'm just going to click no here. Oculus software is still going to start, but you don't have to utilize it. Once the sim loads, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in windowed mode. Now that moved it over to another monitor, but I want to show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to hit test and let the car run for just a second. The reason I'm letting it run is because I need a little bit of time footage, even though it's sitting still, with the car sitting on the track. So let me show you something. I'm going to hit pause. I'm going to spin the camera around. So you can see how my driver's in the car right now. If I hit refresh, it works. If I back up to the very beginning, or if I go to the end now where there's no driver in the car, watch this. I'll hit refresh. It's Control R, and nothing happens. The paint will only refresh if the car is currently occupied. So as soon as the driver gets back in, there it is. So that's one trick. That frustrated me when I first started doing this. Now this is a paint that I threw together in about 15-20 minutes just in preparation for the Daytona 500, half expecting to get killed within the first few laps just because I don't do a lot of that kind of racing. So I was really fortunate to win. But I wanted to do something different today. So I'm going to show you what I saw on TV a moment ago that kind of grabbed my attention a little bit just as a basic theme. Eric Almirola has a new car for this year, and I thought it was pretty sweet looking. I like the binary black and white nature of it. I like how minimalistic it is, but yet it's still got some good energy to it. I'm not wild about the rear end just being a flat black, so I might do something with that. But generally, I kind of like this simple and yet kind of exciting layout. So I'm going to keep that tab open and kind of use it as a touchstone as we go here. Let me show you a couple resources. Number one, if you're going to do painting, then I recommend having a folder with all your templates, all your versions of cars, everything set up. All right, so here I've got a paint folder, and you can see that for every car that I've ever done a paint for, I've got a folder. Right? Now, the one we're doing today is the NASCAR Ford Fusion, and you can see here I've got the original template as well as the GIMP version of it. I use GIMP as my editor, so some of the skills that you see here and stuff is probably better and easier in Photoshop. I am by no means a graphic artist, so don't expect any greatness here. Just expect to see what it is that I do. Now, I've already opened GIMP up, and I have the template here. Now, I'm choosing to do a NASCAR one today for these purposes because their templates are actually really, really simple. A lot of the road racing templates are very difficult. If I go back and look at, for example, the Ferrari template, a lot more pieces, right? Or the Ford, a lot more pieces, right? So there's a lot of learning that you do when you're messing with different types of cars. Every one of them is very unique. For today's purposes, I've got this one. And since I don't want to necessarily just kill my existing paint, I'm going to do a duplication of this one. So I'm going to save it as in the same folder, and I'm going to call it Mind Trick Fusion V2. And I'm just going to save that as an XCF file. That's the file extension for GIMP. So save. Must not have gotten that in there. Now the next part's kind of tricky. A lot of people don't get this, so I'm going to take a moment to explain it. How do I get, without uploading it to Trading Paints over and over, how do I get the in-sim car to update on demand without uploading it to Trading Paints over and over and over? I'm going to show you that. So the first thing to do is open up your profile. I need to turn off my audio. You've probably been hearing me twice. There we go. All right, so I'm in my profile here, and you'll notice you've got a member ID on here somewhere. They seem to have taken it out. Okay, this is a bit embarrassing. I don't see it. I thought it was part of the okay, so I know another way to get to this though. I thought it was part of the name up here, but what you can do just as a quick hack for any driver is go into the forum, and you'll see when I hover over a helmet, how the link down at the bottom left right here, it's going to come up here, gives a number, a 6-digit in my case number. Some people will have 4 or 5 digits. Martin here has 16272. That's his iRacing number. Mine's 147818. So what I'm going to do is save. I've already saved this as V2, right? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export into the native iRacing folder. So that's in your documents, and then iRacing, and then paint, and then find the car, right? This is a stock car, so Ford Fusion, and then name it car underscore, and then that number. In my case, 147818. And then the file format that iRacing uses is called a targa. So it's .tga, and then down here I'm going to choose targa, export, replace. Now that's not replacing anything on Trading Paints. It's nothing permanent. If I were to turn Trading Paints on right now and hit refresh, it would simply overwrite this file. So I'm not hurting anything on Trading Paints. Nothing I do here is permanent until I upload and replace the file on Trading Paints. But that's yet another reason that I tend to save the existing file. Now, first thing I'm going to do is basically delete everything I've got, and we're going to start from scratch. So here we have just a naked blank template. Now, one thing I want to point out is if you were to open up the original one, the PSD that iRacing allows you to download, they provide a whole bunch of pre-made templates in most cases. I might have already removed them before we got to this. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So see how they've got all of these already provided? I can go through these and select one, but there's no fun in that. So what I normally do is just delete that whole group of them and just don't even use them. And then once I do my saving and exporting, I end up with what we started with there. So do that export again just real fast, get reset. A lot of times you can find your own target, export, place. Okay, so we're back to now where if I pull the sim back up and hit refresh, yep. So driver's in the car, camera's on a swivel, templates ready for messing with. Now I'm using GIMP. If you're not familiar with GIMP, this isn't a GIMP tutorial, but you'll see what tools I use. The vast majority over here, I don't know how to use. I am not a graphic artist. But the ones that I do know, I know to reasonably good effect. So I'm going to remove all of my graphics and layers now. We're left with this just this blank template. Now what I'm going to do is recreate the groups. Empty. Now, what I like to do is have one group for graphics and another for logos. Traditionally, you're going to have a car design, and that's swoops and swooshes and lines and emblems, or not emblems, but other things that aren't logos, and they live in one place, and then your logos sort of usually live on top of them. I do have a Mindtrick logo here, my team name. I'm just going to leave that there for now. Sometimes you have to move logos out to fit them over some of the required iRacing things. The higher the graphic is, or the layer is on this list, then the higher it's going to be on the car. You're think about putting stickers on top of stickers. The one on top is the one that's most visible. So on top is most visible. So what I'm going to do here is create a new layer, and I'm going to call it right side upper. Okay, so I've glanced at the Eric Almirola paint, and I kind of know what I'm going for, but I'm not going to just wholesale copy it. It does give me a couple of ideas, though. I think what I can do is create part of it and then sort of clone it over to another part. We'll see how that goes, but I don't think I necessarily have to create the whole thing at once, but I believe what I need to do first is set my base layer to white. And so down at the very bottom, again, the bottom sticker, as it were, I'm going to make that white. Okay. Now I'm going to expose my wire so that I can see the individual pieces. And then when I export that and refresh the car, you can see now it's white and it's got a wireframe. You'll see cars sometimes on track that have wireframes on them and they look silly, and that's because someone forgot to turn that off after export. It just becomes part of the paint. All right, now we're going to be working on the right side first, so I'm going to spin the camera around. And let's just get creative. Zoom in here, and there's no rhyme or reason necessarily at this point. I think first I need to define sort of an upper barrier. So this tool here allows me to sort of draw various shapes. And then I'm going to hit Shift V to make that a selection, right? So now I can turn around, and I've got the red that I normally use, and I'm just going to fill that in. Hard brush, big brush, fill that in. And if I hit export, Flip back over. Now I've got this. You're going to do that, dozens and dozens of times. You're going to export over and just see how it looks. I kind of wanted this to go back farther to the B pillar. I want that swoop to go there. And so what I'm going to do is simply move the selection itself down instead of having to retrace it. There we go. And I'm going to color it in again. Export. And look. And that's closer to what I wanted. So that's my first step. Now I'm going to remove the selection and I'm going to create another one of those. But in this case, I'm just going to sort of set using the stickers there as my marker. I'm just going to create another block that gives me an angle. Okay, so that's sort of the rake of what I'm going to be using here. Now what I'm going to do is create a sort of spear. I'm going to do that with a new layer. And by spear, I guess what I mean is just a long stab of color, kind of like what we were seeing on Amarola's car there. I think that ought to be okay. And now what's cool about the way I've done that there on its own layer is that what I can do is move, if I feel like it's too long, I can move it in. If I feel like it's too high or too low, I can move it around, right? And so now I can simply duplicate this a bunch of times. And manipulate them until I find something I like. Let's kind of see what I'm doing here. All right, now I'm going to do a different, I'm going to put these in a group together. They don't need to be in any specific order. So that's my long spear group. All right, so I've got a long spear group there. Now let's do some shorter ones. Let's create another little group. But we'll make these stubbier, right? A little thicker. Still make them long. Give myself as much flexibility as possible. And we'll just go back to the old paintbrush, color it in, unselect it, move it around, find a home for it. And this experiment might be terrible. It just might not work. But that's creativity. That's part of the fun of it. All right, we'll duplicate this a bunch more times. Kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here. Just moving things around, trying to find a good home. It just looks kind of cool. Got kind of a void here I want to do something with. A little more red there. That spear's getting cut off. So what I'm going to do for this particular little guy that I'm on right here, I'm just going to put a dab of red just to fill in that gap. Let's go look at it real fast, see how it looks on track. Yeah, it's coming along. I think maybe the whole thing can move back a little bit, perhaps. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to link this section together, as well as that whole right side thing, which I'll probably have to patch in a moment here. I'm just going to move the whole thing back. So let's link, link, link. What this does is allow me to move a bunch of layers together. Why isn't that grabbing that? Did I miss one? Upper and front. That's interesting. I must have messed up a layer somewhere. Oh, I put it on the base. Crap. Okay, it's no problem. Quick lesson here. So, like I said, it's important to get it right. So what I'm going to do is turn off these so I can't see them. Just turn off the whole graphics section. And so I accidentally painted onto the base layer instead of into that new layer that I had originally created. So I'm going to use the eraser here. I'm going to kill all that, or I'll just paint it white. And so now if I refresh the car, I'll have just a solid white car. And then I'll put my spears back on. And I'll just move them. Making all kinds of rookie mistakes today. Like I said, I don't paint stock cars a lot. Or ever. Let's see how far back that's going, see if it makes me happy. It's not terrible. Let's get the red back in. So this time I'm going to go back into the right layer, and I'm going to redraw that section again. Go to about here. Trace back around the wheel arch. Back to red and fill that in. turn off the wire, get a little better look. Yeah, so this is too aggressive a rake right there. I think I need to kill part of the bottom of this. So I'm going to go back into my eraser tool and use that bottom. I'm going to use this guy here as the bottom threshold. So back to this tool, make sure I'm on the right deal there, and boom, 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 boom. Now, looks like I'm missing a section here. Yeah, that's not bad. I like that. I might even move it back just a tad farther. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and paint up the front. Now, being a NASCAR car, this is one of the easier parts. I need to just basically, for now, paint the bumper and the hood and the fenders red. And that's basically the Almirola style. That's where we're going to baseline and see what happens next. So to that end, I'm going to sort of collapse these groups, unlink them so that I'm not messing with them later. And I'm going to create a new group. Actually, I'm not going to create a group. I don't need a group for this. I'm just going to create a new layer. I'll call it Hood and Fenders. And turn that wire back on. And this one, I'm just going to do without the selection because it's a pretty simple, straightforward shape. Like I said, the road cars tend to be much more involved and difficult. You have to do things where you paint cars different colors, or parts different colors, and then refresh out in the sim so that you can see what that thing is. Sometimes it's just really hard to figure out what the parts even are. The way iRacing has to set these things up is to minimize the amount of memory that they use, and that has the tendency of making for very complex templates. So that should give us the hood and fenders. Yep. Now we'll go down and do the bumper, find that. So you can just sort of look for the parts. You know, it's got a big fusion, big hole for the grill, and all that stuff. So this is obviously it. We'll create yet another layer. And the reason I like doing these on different layers is because if I decide later, you know what, I want a yellow bumper, I can simply go in and change this one layer without messing with the whole car. So we'll do red here. Just makes the layers makes it easy to be more creative and change things on the fly as you go, and update paints later too. Let's turn off the wire, see how it looks. Not bad. Not terrible. Okay, so with that there, notice how I lost my Fusion logo. Where's that at? So what that's telling me there, see how the Fusion logo is present, but when I turn on that front bumper graphic, it's gone. So that means that somewhere down here is the Fusion logo, which I want on top, and there it is. And there's often on these things a color change decal. So I'm going to take that and drag it up above my stuff. That way when I turn the front bumper on, it's there. And there you are. Now I think for my purposes I'm going to make that white, by the way. So there's a couple different ways you can go about this. I'll show you the results of those. Sometimes they don't work out the way you want. So you might think you can just come in here. I'm going to change this to white and paint over it. And you're right with this one. With others, you have to do a color selection tool, which is this guy. And what it does is allows you to select the area of a given color on a given layer. We don't need that. So in this case, let's look at it with white. Yeah, it looks good. Now in a minute, we're going to go add some of these guys right here to the front to give it the white up front, so it sort of breaks it up. And there's that middle red section. And I might even move the spears back further. I'm not sure yet. All right, let's zoom back out. I think at this point, yeah, we'll go ahead and make the whites up front. Now, to do that, what I'm going to do is temporarily combine a bunch of stuff and sort of copy my spears from the front, right? So I'm going to merge layer group, and now that whole group is one, and I'm going to duplicate it. You know what? No, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is just duplicate it there, and I'm going to duplicate this one here. And so now I'll have a front section and a back section. So let's do another nested group, front spears, and then another group for back spears. But I'm going to put the back spears one under the fronts because I want the fronts to override. The backs. Okay, so I don't think this will work, but I'm going to try something real fast. Hey, it does work. Okay, cool. So what I've just done is highlighted in the long spear group all of the spears that are there that are red, and I'm going to change them to white. And this is basically going to just overwrite what's there now. It doesn't seem right. That seemed wrong just now. Oh, yeah, no. Let's try that again. What I'll do instead, got a different idea. I'm going to merge and do this. Put it over here where it's living on its own. And I'll paint it up here. Why aren't you letting me paint you? So I guess I'm showing my rookie stripes here. Told you I'm not a graphic artist. All right. We're going to lose the whole front spears thing and try something different. One of the cool things I like about doing this kind of thing is that I learn new stuff all the time. I learn new stuff all the time. Could that explain it? Did I just simply merge the wrong stuff together? Let's try that again. Grab them. Let's move the selection. Turn the selection. Rotate. So what I'm doing here is simply adding the same exact design of spears here, and then I'll marry them up on the front of the fender here in a moment. At least that's my hope. Let's see if this works. New layer group, front, right, Spears. That's so weird. I wonder why it's not letting me paint that. Oh, it is. It was just below. Again, the power of layers. So let's make sure we got those full. And then I'll go back and do a couple touch-ups here. Let's go ahead and unselect. Let's look at what that looks like from the front. Let's go back and look at Almirola's car real quick. Let's touch our touchstone. Okay, so they left some white down at the bottom, and I think that works. So let's try that. Hey, now we're talking. That looks a bit better. We'll have to change the fusion back in a minute, but I think that I think we'll match this up with the corner of the grill. Yeah, now we're talking. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is duplicate that one. Now I've kind of got it placed where I want. Turn on my wire, zoom in a bit, and I'm going to flip that vertically. So now that same exact set lives, but it was vertically flipped, so I just need to find it. There it is. And I'm going to place it in such a way. Just sort of find yourself a marker. It's crossing over right before this angle, so you need to find that same angle on the other side. Right about there. Let's check it. Sort of zoom in. Yeah, you can see I'm still a little off balance here. There's our center line, and I've got that much space there after the first angled one, and I accidentally came in on the wrong side of the angle, so we'll kick it that way a little bit. Yeah. All right, let's go back and change our Fusion logo back to black. Or you know what? We'll put it as red. But that'll look okay once I get the middle colored in. All right. So at this point, we'll do a little patch layer. And I'm going to make a little square selection box. It doesn't hurt you to paint the negative spaces. You'll notice that I just left that rectangle there is this rectangle here, and I just left it, painted it. It doesn't do anything. It's kind of cool. All right, now what we need to do is carry the we need to carry this swoop here, these out here, and sort of match them up. And then I think we might move the red spears backwards some. We'll see in a sec. But let's first simply copy the ones that we have. Make sure I'm grabbing the right one. I'm not being very careful about my labeling here. I'm normally much more careful, but this is a pretty simple design. We'll duplicate that and Move it down into a general position. Sort of just a rough position here. Then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I say I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Man, I'm struggling here today, aren't I? Don't have an active selection. I'm having, of course, because I'm doing this live, I'm having problems, of course. It's just the way things work. You know what, I bet you it did duplicate and it's just down there. This paint is so binary. There they are. Okay. Do not understand why the hell that isn't working. Nothing selected. All right, well, let's go back to basics then. Just do this again. Create a new layer. Front white spears. Just bothers me because that didn't make any sense. Paint these little guys white. And then move that whole selection back. That's what I was going for with the other one, but just couldn't get it to happen. So, not sure why. It's okay though. Alright, so you can see how they're sort of married up. You kind of get an idea what I'm going for there. I'm going to move them back a little bit and up a little bit. And they don't have to be exact. They're not gonna be. That's fine. But you can see how there's a big red one down at the comp. There's a big red gap here. It's sort of being followed through pretty well there. I might come up just a smidge or two more. Maybe up and back just again. See how that looks. Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah, now we're talking. And I'm pretty convinced that I want to move the red section back just a little bit. So to that end, I'll just grab these two again, link them. And I'll probably have to patch that front section again. Yeah. Patch this little guy again. Oops. Remember your colors, kids. All right. Go take a gander. Yes, sir. I think that looks okay. Yeah, I like that quite a lot. Now at this point, is a good point to sort of start experimenting with logos and figuring out what you want where. Um, so, being a race team, we have our own logo, but we have also got other, folks that we've worked with. There's a Hungarian organization called TIS TV that we sort of partner with when it comes to exposure. And so you'll see a couple of different logos going on in the car in a minute. Now, if you're going to start painting, one of the things I strongly recommend is having a sort of an asset library of logos that you use a lot. So what I've got here is in that same paint folder with all my cars, I've got an assets folder. And then for various brands that I've used on various cars, I've just got all these, folders with logos in them. Now, for today's purposes, the first thing I'm going to start with is our team name. I kind of always do. It's the most prominent thing on our cars. And since I've got sort of a white-based car, I'm going to use a black-based logo. Now, one of the tricks when I'm painting my cars that you'll want to think about in the future for yours is that a large component of our logo is this red M. And so the cars themselves are red in color too. So I've got to be careful on where I place my M so that it isn't bleeding over into the red paint and it's just, completely obscured. So I'm going to take this little guy and simply drag it in, and it's going to come in at whatever its original size was and wherever I happen to have my active layers at the moment. Because this is a logo, I want it to be on top of all the graphics. Right now it's sort of in between. So I'm going to drag it up to my logos, and now it's on top. And then a lot of times what I'll do is, so I don't have to keep going back to the folder, I'll save a hero version of it just up here on the roof and then hide it. So I'm going to rename this one Hero, and then duplicate it and then hide the original. That way I can just go back and reduplicate it anytime I want to use that. I'm going to drag it down here and place it, and I'm just going to haphazardly place it first and just see how it looks. Sometimes oversized text on a car looks awesome. This is not one of those times, I don't think. It's a bit too big, it bleeds over the top too much, it just doesn't make sense in this one. So I'll scale it down a bit. One thing about scaling, always scale down, never scale up. If you're scaling up, it's just going to pixelate and look worse and worse. So I'm going to scale that down. Better. I feel like my M is a tad too tall here. Okay, I'm going to try two different things. I kind of like where Mind Trick is. In fact, I think I want it a little bit higher, but I want my M lower. But because it's one image, what I'm going to do is break it and make two. So I'm going to get the Ind Trick part positioned where I want it. Yep. And then get it off the light. Yeah, I like that. And now what I'm going to do is move the M by itself down. To do that, I'm going to duplicate this. So now I've got two Mind Tricks right on top of each other, right? Two of them right on top of each other. One of them, I'm going to crop out the Ind Trick, and then the other one I'm going to crop out the M. That way I can move them independently of one another. And I'll do the M on top and the Ind Trick on the bottom. So for this one, I can simply remove, I can just erase the M. All right. On the other one, I can erase the Ind Trick. Make sure I didn't just accidentally. Yeah, okay, we're good. So remove the Ind Trick on that one. And so now what I've got is an unbroken Mind Trick, but with the ability to move the M around independent of the rest of the word, which is really cool. It's those little tips and tricks that you pick up. Try to get the spacing about right, and then check it. Yeah, not bad. I think I'm happy with that. That looks cool. So now, being our next major partner, I'm going to jump back over to my folder and go down to Tease TV and grab their logo and drop that on. And same thing, they've got a massive one, and I'm just going to save. I'm going to move it up there. I'll duplicate it. Call one of them the hero. Hide it and manipulate its replacement there. And I'm just going to size that down quite a lot. Roughly position it. Now I'm not sure if I want this over here or over here yet, so I'm just going to place it here and get a feel for it. Actually looks kind of cool. So I think first I'll bring it down just a tad in size, and I might angle it to match the rake of the bumper there, or of the skirt. Okay, so that's straight, and now let's save real fast, and then I'm gonna first, so I'm not moving all of that, I'm gonna crop. That's weird. GIMP be doing weird stuff today. Stuff I don't get. Never seen it do that before. Oh, it's because it's selection. Hello! Hello! Everyone in YouTube land, say hi to James. What's up? No, I am painting a car right now, being a nerd. Indeed. That's what they say. In fact, Mike asked about it recently, how I do it and stuff, and said you should stream one time. And so I'm actually streaming this, so say hi to the internet. The whole internet is watching. The whole internet. Uh-huh. Oh, really? Mike streams on Twitch. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got a bunch of camel content on there. All right, so I'm trying to match this little spot right here. Yeah, I use GIMP. There we go. I think that's pretty closely matched. Let's look at it without the wires. Yeah, looks good. Starting to come together. Now there's another brand that's a part of that little collaboration that we have with Tease TV, and it's Simupad. I'm not sure where to put that yet. I think right here. They've got a white logo that I have stored in that same folder. Let's grab that. And same thing, I'm just going to drag it up to the hood, top area there, and save a hero version of it. duplicate it. And manipulate this one. So you can see that a lot of this is just experimentation, you know, just getting things generally where you want it and goofing off with it until you're happy with the result. If you ever do get happy with the result, sometimes I'll work on a car for an hour or two and then give up on it because I'm just not happy with anything I've made. Yeah, James, there are more paints in the junk folder on my computer than, well, I say that. There are more paints that I've simply deleted because they've been just awful. I have a good idea that doesn't turn into a good paint. Oop, I'll be right back, kids. And I'm back. All right, so where'd we leave off? We got the SimuPad logo down there. Kind of happy with that. I'm not wild about the way the rivets are overbearing it a little bit, so I might bring it down to compensate there. I think it's a tad too big, maybe. Yeah, it looks cool. All right. So now that that's done, so everybody kind of gets the idea now of how we use layers to replicate these spears, as I'm calling them, where I have layers on top of layers. Yeah, I'm really happy with this so far. Now, anytime you're doing that kind of stuff, you always end up with these weird overlaps that can really screw up a paint and be hard to find later. So it's a good idea to go through and turn off stuff and see if things disappear in places you don't expect. Like a moment ago when I took off the front spears, this black area was affected. So that looks okay. That looks okay. What I'm looking for here is the hood to see if any of those spears had affected it, but looks good. And that was this one, yeah. So there I'm just going to remove this little section. Export and look at it in the sim. Yeah. Yeah, see, it looks good, see? Okay. So, with that done, now I can turn my attention to the hood in NASCAR. That's one of the most important spots for sponsorship. And I'm going to potentially use two different Mindtrick logos here, but I doubt it. I recently designed a new logo, and I think I'm going to try to just use it. Let's see how it looks. Same thing as before. I'm going to save a hero version of it. Make sure it's in my logos section. duplicate and hide. Turn that bad boy. And we'll just leave it big at the moment. Now you'll notice if I go back to our inspiration car here, if I can find that tab. I've not been able to find the right tab too many times. On our inspiration car here that Almirola has, you can see that it bleeds over the side of the hood, and that seems okay, although I'm not wild about it. So I think I'll probably end up coming in a little bit on mine, making it a little more constrained in size. But first, let's just get a look. Yeah, so that's just too dominating. It doesn't make sense. So we'll bring it down about 75%. One thing that iRacing does a pretty good job of is providing a center line with a guide on it, and so you can use that guide to align your graphics pretty well. And if not, you know, using GIMP at least, I create guides all the time to make racing stripes and whatnot. So let's take a look. Yeah, now we're talking. That looks pretty good. And then we'll grab some of those same logos again. Tease TV, we've got that hero logo, so I'm going to duplicate it. And we're going to bring it down in size. Rotate it. And rough place it. And that's going to be way too big, but we're going to look at it anyway. Get a sense. Yeah, way too big. In fact, I think they have a white one. I'm going to go grab the white one. If I'm not mistaken, I had a white one of theirs. Yeah. So same gig here. Bring it down a little smaller. Scale. Rotate. And move. Try to space it equidistantly between the Ford logo and the Mind Trick logo. A little too low. Maybe still a little too big. Turn off the wire. I think it's still too big. It's taking a little bit too much away from the Mind Trick logo. Now we're talking. Bring that up just a bit. And there you go. I like that. Now as far as Simupad goes, I think we'll slide Simupad in over the headlights. I think that'll look kind of cool, sort of at an angle. So this spot right here is this spot right here. So we'll dip back into the Simupad pond. Nice and small for these. Just get it rough for now. See, my angle is wrong, still a tad too big. So I'll just resize it as I go and rotate it to match. going to use the bottom of the parentheses pieces there to help with my alignment. There we go. Turn on the wire. So it's worth mentioning here, notice that the green edge of the wire there is where the paint ends. And so if I move this to where part of the word is outside of the wire, well, you'll notice that when I re-render the car, part of it's going to be missing. So that's one of the things to watch for if you're finding that your logos and stuff are cut off, or graphics are cut off and you don't understand why. You might be painting, for lack of a better word, outside of the lines. I think I need to bleed that up a little bit. Over closer. I might have to do something tricky. No, I'm pretty happy with that. That looks cool. All right, what else do we want to do? I think we got some dead space down here we can utilize. Maybe I'll do some red spikes down there. Either red spikes or a logo. I think red spikes. So what that means is we'll go back to our graphics section. Make sure I'm looking at the right one. Yep, we're going to duplicate this little guy. We're going to, actually, no we won't. We're first going to Alright, so now remember I put that filler in there, the front bumper something or another, I can't remember what I called it, white patch, there it is. I'm going to move that down a bit. And we're going to take this, move it down. And you'll see how it looks. Needs a little more meat. Gotta find a middle ground here. All right, man. Good luck in your race. So, starting to find it, I think what we need to do is potentially get rid of that particular spike. Or shorten it artificially there. Oop, I didn't get it closed. Let's try that again. Sometimes when you copy by color and then why are things not working the way I want them to work? I've got some setting messed up. I don't know what it is. Doesn't make sense. Okay, what we're going to do is save just real fast and reopen GIMP. Struggling weirdly. Struggling with stuff I shouldn't be struggling with. I don't recall ever struggling with in the past. Now what that does mean is just have to go into the document history and reopen my file. It should be just as I left it. In fact, now the selection is there. Weird. I have to reset my export real fast. It's not a biggie. Documents, iRacing, paint, stock car. Where's it at? Oh. Export. Alright, so we should be good to go again. Now let's go back in here and do what we were trying to do. And that's straighten out this spike. I think we might have murdered it too far. This way they're not jagged. So I'm not operating with a full 2048 pixel layer here. I'm going to take this layer and crop it to the selection. So that way when I rotate it, hopefully all of them go. Rotate. Now I've got something that's a little easier to manipulate than what I was dealing with a minute ago. I think maybe that chubby spear is potentially what's jacking me up a little bit. Let's locate and kill that one. That's interesting. Yeah, I think that works. All right, so now what I need to do is anything after the center line basically needs to be copied over. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the whole shebang. I'm not using this, so delete that. And then I'm going to duplicate this and then flip it vertically. Kabam. Look at it and see if it's lined up. If not, adjust. See, it's not lined up at all. So what I need to do is get that side matching here. And so just like before, I'll find some common frame. In this case, I'll use just the center line, I guess, and match, have them both meet there. Yep, and I'll delete the extraneous stuff. Which basically means anything after the center line. Guess I'll have to go row by row. And same thing on the other side. Oh, I went to the wrong spot. So I'll adjust this. Didn't go to the right center line. It's not the center line at all. There we go. So now if I remove the wire again, yeah, that's kind of cool. Kind of cool, kind of unique. I might even take those two chevron things there and move them up a few notches. So I'll link them so I can move them together and experiment with them a little bit. And again, I might have to mess around with the way the fusion word is written. That's not working. Don't like that. Up to. Yeah, now we're talking. I kind of dig that. It's a little different, a little interesting. And now's where I just start peppering some logos in. Well, actually, I guess I need to address the rear. Do I want to do something on the rear to reflect the spikes? The Amarola car just simply had a straight up red rear, and I don't think I liked that. Maybe I'll carry the red over the top and then down into the top of the bumper area, or at least the deck lid. Let's experiment with that. So we're going to go back to graphic mode. Turn off the wire, go down to graphics, create a new layer, call it roof. Alright, so unlike the hood, I have to be able to trace a pretty direct line here for the hood. So I'm going to use this little guy again, and we're going to go from here to I don't want to go all the way down the A-pillar with it. So I think we'll start here and then come to here. So I'm going to bend this in just a moment. And then I'm just going to take it to the center line, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, so I'm not going to close that loop yet because what I want to do is bend, if possible. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but what I want to do is bend my selection line to match this body line. So I'm just going to grab it and pull, and now I've got these adjustments here that I can mess with. And I'm just going to stretch that out, and then go to the other side and pull on it. Getting close, and it doesn't have to be exact. You don't see the body lines on the car when you don't have the grid, so close is good. I think that's probably good enough. We'll go C. So we'll select here again, close the loop, and I'm going to paint that in with red. And then turn off the wire and go look at it. Of course, I painted the wrong side. That's okay, it'll give me an idea of what I did. Yeah, it's not working. So you can see here that I went too far center. Those roof rails, I wonder if I can use them to conceal a rough line. Let's find out. Let's just turn the selection off, do a big gross circle and see. Yeah, that bleeds over. Well, I guess if I go ahead and do the pillars. Okay, let's just kill everything that I have on the roof at the moment and try something totally different there. Again, it's all about trial and error. We'll just see how it looks if I go ahead and make the whole thing red. Sometimes, especially with stock cars, sometimes the simplest solution is best. Now notice how it's going over the black. Sometimes that means that it's actually going to render over the black. Sometimes it doesn't. There are parts that iRacing's licensing deals mandate get shown, and in this case the black itself is not among them. So I need to locate what that is, and there it is. And kind of like we did earlier with the color change logos, just move it up in the order to where it's over all of my stuff. Now if I go back and look at it again, that should fix itself. Yeah. Let's look at that real quickly and see how it looks from the side. Yeah, I think that's actually okay. Then we'll just go ahead and continue coloring in the hood. I guess that means I can make those black rails whatever color I want. There's an opportunity for creativity there. Don't know if I'll take it, but there's an opportunity. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the deck lid. I'm not sure I like the way this is coming out at the moment as far as the top goes, but we're going to keep with the experiment and just see what happens here. So I think we've taken our white car and made it too red, perhaps. I can smooth that out in a second if I end up liking the direction of this. find that spoiler. I guess that's probably it. We're going to make that black. And then I guess we'll follow the red down to the tail lights on the back here. So hopefully this is helping if anybody out there has been wanting to paint, just didn't know how. Helping to understand at least the methods. You'll learn the tools. Where's that Ford logo at? Okay, so just like the other logos, we can see here that my Ford logo is too low a layer, so we need to locate it and move it up. There it is. And now we'll bring back the layer. Turn off the wire and take a look at it, see how I feel. So I kind of like the back end here a bit, but it's a little too much white, and I mean, I don't know. I think I'll do a black bottom here. See it in NASCAR all the time where they will just have a totally different color on the bumper than the rest of the car without really carrying the design language through. And for whatever reason, it tends to work on stock cars and not on others. But I've never been a huge fan of it, but we're going to experiment with it here. The rear end just being a block. Rear lower. And we'll increase our brush size. Boom, boom, boom. Turn off the wire, go look at it. All right, now notice that big sponsorship area, the license plate area there. We're going to locate that. There it is. And we're going to make that black as well. Boom. See, that looks okay from the back. Let's throw a Mind Trick logo on it and see how it feels. Yeah, because I need the white one, so that hero one that I have won't work. Gonna rotate it. I say. Oh, the selection. If I forget to turn off the selection, sometimes it confuses me as to why it won't do stuff. There we go. Told you guys I'm no pro. barely know what I'm doing. I think I've gotten a lot better at this, though. You know, when I first started doing these things, it was very amateurish, and it's still amateurish. I'm sure that the more learned people out there can probably accomplish a paint like this in half the time. Okay, I can do that. Or I can do another set of red spikes coming out. I might mess up this TV logo thing, but maybe I can do some more red spikes coming out and wrapping around. Alright, so we've got a couple different experiments running. We're going to take that stuff off. I've still got them there, so I can just turn them back on in a moment, right? But I'm going to hide them for now. And once again, go back and copy our spears. This is why I should be labeling them better. Front right spears. There we are. I should be labeling these things better because by not labeling them, I'm causing myself confusion later when I'm trying to find a particular group. Kind of similar to what we did in the front here. Let's drop in. Let's turn off that TV logo. See, now the problem with this is up here I've got that top section that's concealing, and here I don't have that, so that's a little bit too aggressive. I don't know, maybe it's alright. Let's bleed it over around the back and just see how it looks. I'm going to just simply duplicate it again, and this is what's going to go up to the bumper area. Now, it's likely that there's going to be some sizing problems here that might invalidate this whole thing just because you can see that the bumper itself is in the template at a different size. Alright, so it's going to have to be rotated. So it's rotating each of those layers individually, even though I'm doing them as a group. Hopefully not freezing. Okay. Whew. Sometimes GIMP, I mean, it's open source. They don't have the dollars that Adobe does. So sometimes it'll just freeze on me. Yeah, so you can see I'm sort of suffering from the size problem here. So we're going to try something terrible. We're going to try to increase the size of these existing layers. This will likely not work. At least not the way we want. Don't freeze, don't freeze, don't freeze. All right. Save. Save for the just in case. I'm starting to feel a freeze coming along. Okay. So we need to move it in and down. Okay, getting kind of close. You can see here that I need to get this guy married up to that guy. So let's go to the wire here. How far up do I need to go? All right, so you can see that I'm coming in below this line. That's that same line. I need to come in above it by a bit, not a bunch. So now instead of just eyeballing it, I can come in and do that, and then I'll probably still have to mess with rotation. And then I might just have to manually create some of the others. Let's rotate a tad. Rotating, 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 rotating. Every time it stops like this, I'm afraid it's freezing. Man, it's getting close. Okay, we'll get the top one matched up, and then we're going to adjust the rest of them individually. Perfect. That's about as close as you get that. All right, now we're going to move the others independently. So the first one we're going to do is this one to match up to that one. So we need to find it first. Hey, found it the first time. All right, so we're going to go down a bunch. Probably 4 more clicks or so. Maybe 2 more. Okay, so you can see now that we're top is married up, but the bottom isn't. That means that I need to slide it out farther because it's the scaling is still different. So we'll try that. Still, just need to get a little bit of a thicker spot there. That's really close. Really close. There it is. Now we're going to move this one down to match up with this one. Just bit by bit, we're getting there. Just got to find the right one. Found it. Let's get it lined up. Nice. I still don't think this is fixing my problem of this being just too white back here, so I still need to figure something out, but I like where this is going at least. It's different, it's interesting. Alright, so now I'm going to turn this one off for the moment. This one and this one I'm going to turn off for the moment, and get this guy down to match up with that. Or I guess I could just move this one down. I can remove that one. So let's focus on finding this one. Okay, that one we're just going to hide. That very bottom one we can hide. Oh, it's one of the shorts. Okay, that one's hidden. Now I need to find this one and move it down. Having all that connected, I hope I didn't mess up some other spheres. We'll find out in a sec. Meantime, I need to move this one down. Oh crap, that just moved two things. I'm moving that whole group. Poop. It's okay. Fix it in a sec. Means I broke the top one. You got to be careful about when you group things. It's very convenient, but then sometimes you make mistakes like I just did of moving things you don't want to move. And that causes many, many problems. Let's fix this top one now. Since I messed it up. There we go. Now this little guy needs to move down here, and we're pretty well matched up. Just like with the other one, it's just not wide enough yet. Nice. Okay, so that's those spheres matched over to this side. Let me take a look. I kind of dig it. I kind of dig it. We'll put a Tease TV logo on the deck lid there, and maybe another one down here. Maybe on the fender instead. Let's take a look though at our car so far. You're in the way, dude. Alright, let's address the rear and just see if a logo manages to break up the monotony of the white. So we'll bring this down and bring this down. Scales, turn on the wire. So, oh, hang on, where is that at? So yeah, that's scary. I just dropped that right into the spear group, and so later on if I move that spear group, I could very easily have totally screwed that up. Let's find our center line here. Adjust the logo to the center line. Still feel like that bottom section is just unforgivingly white. You know, just too much. So maybe I can just put a line across there. See, at least with the black, you can sort of make out the shape of the bumper. With the white, it's just sort of washed out, and it just looks like a wall. I don't like it. So I'm thinking that maybe take this rear lower and move it underneath the spears. See how that looks. That's actually kind of cool, maybe? Maybe so? Yeah, what the hell? Good enough for government work. Or perhaps I should do this section in black and then this section in white. Maybe that's our secret sauce. Let's try that. It's a pretty straight line there. Though not really. It'll be good enough to give us an idea. We can refine it. We can refine it if we like the idea. Maybe it should be red. Maybe that's the deal. I can't use red in the license plate because of the M. It's that problem I was talking about earlier. What if that's white? If I go black and white. Does that provide the balance? Still don't like it. Something about that white back there. That works great on the side of the car. I just do not like it in the back. Maybe if the Mind Trick logo were lower? I'm going to insert some gray here. Use the white logo with gray. It just muddies the water more, doesn't it? Jeez. Problematic. I like the red on top. Just not wild about this license plate area, and I have no idea what to do about it. Oops, something went wrong there. There it goes. What I'll maybe do is add a little bragging. Where's the Daytona 500 logo? So you can see here the value of having those assets handy. What I want to do is do a little bragging logo here where I show off that I've won this race. Haha. And trying to decide if I want to put it inside here with the logo or down here maybe, or over here maybe. You know, we do not need to rotate it if we're going to put it on the back bumper, so we'll just resize it. Move this little guy up here. I'm not a huge oval racer, so pretty proud of this win. And let's just see how this looks. A little experiment here with text. Not loving it. And it's not doing anything to provide that definition that I'm looking for between the deck area, between the rear area and the bumper. This crease right here, I'm wanting to define somehow, and it's just nothing I'm doing here is getting that done. Maybe if I put the Daytona 500 logo over and then the winner word below it, maybe that does it. Kind of gets there a little bit. Let's throw a Tease TV logo down at the bottom. Okay, let's get one of these. We're kind of at the point now in this paint where we can start replicating things off different sides of the cars, kind of like we did on the nose with the spikes. So I'm getting close to done. 1, 2, 3 sections. 1, 2, 3 sections. So that should be pretty well balanced. Yeah, I think that looks okay. I'm still not wild about this section just having very little definition, if any. I wonder. I'll try one more little experiment with this license. The license plate area where I'm going to do sort of a faded black, not a full strength black. Hey, that's interesting. Very light gray. I think they gave it what I wanted. I think that gave it what it was missing. Alright, so with that done, kill the collateral damage. Kablamo. Pretty happy with that. Got a big old Mind Trick logo on the front. Got the Tease TV. Don't have semi-pad on the back. I think I'll live without semi-pad on the back, but I'll put it on the deck lid. It'll be a big deck lid. A white one. down in size just a tad. It's hitting those little arrow rails. Nice. I'm actually pretty chuffed with that. I'm happy with the way that came out. Yeah. It's unique and yet still formulaic. It matches the NASCAR sort of style format pretty well, but it's definitely got our own take on it. Down here, I might throw an actual M logo. You know, I've got one in here. I've got a hero. Maybe that's a little brand overkill, but I like that logo. Kind of nifty. Kinda nifty. Oh, what happened to my front swoop in action? See, and this is where it's absolutely going to murder me that I didn't label things properly. Oh, hold on, there it is. I thought I had some reds there. I messed up somewhere. Probably when I had things linked together and was moving them. Bet you that's them there. Oh no, that's those. Okay. I need to erase. I've got collateral damage here. Knock these out. But I have at some point messed up my front accent red spears. You know what? I think I'm going to leave it like that anyway. I think it's cleaner, nicer. It kind of carries the design language over from the back. I like it. I think that leaves me open to put something down here in these two spots, but I don't know what to put, if anything. I think I could put Sibupad logos. Sometimes, for whatever reason with GIMP, you've got to be super deliberate with your keystrokes or it just doesn't recognize what you're doing. Yeah, why not? That looks okay. Yeah, that works. Because it's just that little bit of something there. All right. Now, this part can be tricky depending on how ornate the paint is. Sometimes it can be pretty easy. But what I'm going to do here is copy over everything from the left side to the right side. And you kind of have to do it in batches. So for the moment, we'll collapse the logos. We're going to work from the bottom up on the rest of it. So the first thing I want to do is grab this section. I'm going to duplicate it, vertical, flip it. Generally speaking, iRacing templates have a parity, right? So they're symmetrical. That's the word I was going for. They're symmetrical. So the left side and the right side are exactly juxtaposed to one another. That's not always the case, though. So definitely take a look. Whenever you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're moving things in the appropriate way. So what I'm going to do here is find some reference point, now that I've made the general move, and find on the original, like where something happens. Like here is where the green interacts with the red, right? So I'm going to draw a guideline there, and then make the green and red interact at the same moment here. Are they symmetrical, Mr. NASCAR? Let's find out. Nope, see? Okay, so here's a good example. You can see here that this is touching the line, but when I scroll down, this is not. So everything's a couple of clicks forward here. So I'm instead going to find a different reference point. What's a good one here? The whole idea of this section was to sort of conceal. Okay, here we go. Let's choose the moment that it crosses. Sort of right there. And would we decide this one's farther ahead? Let's just go ahead and move the spears over and see if it lines up. So this is sort of my main side set of spears. I'm going to duplicate them. The tricky thing's of course going to come around to the back again when I've got to match up the back spears again. But I'm going to flip these. Come up to Mary, and then go back down and look at how these were aligned. So we've got this little guy coming down right where it meets. So we've got this notched one and then one that isn't notched. So there's the notched one coming in one above. All right. I wish they would have just made them symmetrical. That'd have been nice. You can see here that, yeah, it's just not symmetrical. That's okay. We can play with it, make it work. Let's go look at the left side and see how it's coming so far. And even if it's a little bit off, I mean, it's not like anyone's ever going to notice it out on the track. All right, so up here, I've got that. I don't think I've got that on the other side. Oh, yeah, I do. Actually, it looks like it's bigger on the other side. Yeah, so Here's a good baseline we can look at. Notice between the 0 and, well, the numbers are slanted, so I can't use that. Shoot. There's that center line over the numbers. I'm a bit forward of it. Okay, that'll just do for now. We can refine and realign. Here's our rear ones. I'm going to duplicate those. I really should be naming these things better, but I'm not. I'm a nerd. Can always go back and fix it later if I need to. Again, I'm just looking for a reference point. Here, for example, I'm looking to see that the bottom, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 going over the line, and the bottom one is right in alignment, right? So I can make it to where I've got 4 going over. And the bottom one's in alignment. And I'm just going to leave that mess there for a moment. Well, no, I'm not. Go ahead and kill it. It's not going to be a part of it anyway. Okay. Now it's time to start getting our white spears. Bringing them in. Looking at it in relation to the bottom here. See how it goes to just past this 4th line. Man, this is all weird. The way that this template's alignment isn't working for me here. But I think that's pretty close. Yep. Okay. And I've already got the front right ones there. That's the front bumper, front bumper, front bumper. Shouldn't have to mess with any of those. What the heck is that one? Don't know. Not worried about it. Okay, where are the rear ones at? No. Cannot believe I didn't name these things better. I'm a fool. A damn fool. Okay, we know it's under the graphics. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is horizontally flip them. Bam. And that will allow me to hopefully marry them up exactly, if not close to exactly. That should be really close. Let's turn off the wire and go take a look in Sim. If you refresh too quickly, sometimes the export doesn't finish, and so it just grabs iRacing's default. That's why you see the playseat themed car come up from time to time. That's just whatever I have for my default in iRacing. There we go. Yeah. So that works. Now, I'm going to run into a problem I just noticed. On the other side, I've got that Mind Trick logo, and it looks nice, and I'm happy with it. But when I reverse it, when I put it on the other side, the M is going to conflict with the red here. So let's see how it looks and then figure something out. Well, really, actually, let's take a look first to make sure that I've got all my stuff graphics-wise copied over. I think I do. Yeah. Okay, so graphics-wise, it looks okay. So now let's move on to logos. I kind of do the same thing. I just start from the bottom and work my way up in my logo section. So let's go into logos. I'm not going to take the Daytona 500 logo anywhere. I'm just going to zoom out here so I can see which one is being grabbed. I don't need that one. Don't need that one. Don't need that one. Okay, this one I need, so I'm going to duplicate it. And I can't flip these, I have to rotate them, right? Because they're words, and so if you flip them, then the printing is backwards. Like think ambulance, the way ambulances have got things backwards on their windshields to allow for you to read it in your mirror. That's not what you want here. Okay. Don't need that one. Oh, that's right. I forgot I had split these. Remember? So what we're gonna do is merge these. So now that's one layer. And then I'm going to duplicate that, spin her around, and move it on up and see how much that M interacts with the rest of it. Yeah, see, that's a bit of a mess right there. So what I'm going to have to do is like create a little protection around that M. Create a little protection around the M. So to do that, I'm just going to grab this little guy. I think that ought to be about right. Not real wild about the effect that had, though. Okay, different approach. We'll undo that. Got a different idea. What I'm going to do is select the color of the M. Which one is that? I'm going to select the color of the M, and then I'm going to move the selection itself, right? So, boom, boom. And I'm going to trace a sort of outline around it without disrupting the rest of the arrows into the protect layer here. So we'll bring this down in size, way down in size. And we're going to just paint around. And then we'll move the selection back to the other side. And we'll paint around again. I've used this trick one time before on my Commodore Audi to make the lines blend in with the Audi logo. And it worked pretty well, so it's something I sort of kept. Like I said earlier, every time you do one of these things, you learn some new trick. And it's just one of them that I picked up recently. Let's go see how that looks. Oh, let's turn off the wire, then go see how that looks. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's got that little traced outline there. Let's save. So if we have a crash. Hello, Mustafa and Tease TV, whoever's representing there. I didn't notice the chat until just now. Good to see you guys. I don't know if you noticed, but your logo's on the car. You know, per the conversation you guys had. I'm using Simupad and Tease TV on all the Mind Trick cars now. So, hope you like seeing those. Hey Ned, what's up? I won the Daytona 500 this last weekend, so I've been in a bit of a NASCAR mood. Today's the real Daytona 500, starting really shortly here actually, and so I was in a bit of a NASCAR mood, and I thought I'd paint up a new car. What's left? Let's see. What's on the right side? Logo, second logo, Simupad. I don't think I've got Simupad yet. So what we got to do now is go find this Simupad logo. There it is. We'll duplicate it, rotate it. Yeah, Ned, thank you guys for all the coverage. It was really cool. I don't speak Turkish, but I went back and watched quite a bit of the Bathurst event on Tease TV, and it was just cool to see my cars. I say my cars. It was cool to see our cars really heavily featured. It was neat. I appreciate that. So I'm happy to share your logo. Yeah, Daytona was fun. I don't do a lot of oval racing, but it was an interesting one to get in there and and run 500 miles and actually be doing well. I made a stupid mistake. I don't know if you saw the pit stop, but I made a bad mistake and ended up coming back to win. So it was very surprising. Yeah, we started practicing for Sebring yesterday. Got some fast drivers, man. I think we stand to do pretty well at Sebring. Why are there two K&N stickers in this thing? That's weird. Wonder if that's a mistake. Yeah, and look, there's the Sherwin-Williams sticker overlaps something else. Huh. Look at that. That's not there, and that's not there. Are there two different sets of decals on here? Did I accidentally duplicate a set of decals? There we go. That was weird. All right, I think yeah, on Elite Dangerous there, Ned, I got out of playing it for quite some time. I had a really bummer mission, and then I've recently sort of picked it back up again. It's fun. I like Elite. I'm a big space nerd, and it does a good job of scratching that space itch. I'm not wild about the way the two M's are sort of clashing with one another there. I think what I'll do is move this one on this side down to the skirt. I can't on the other because of the exhaust pipes, but this one I can. I wonder if that little bit of space will make me feel better. Yeah, I don't have a HOTAS for Elite. What I've got is a Sidewinder, and using the Oculus, I've got to interact with the keyboard and the joystick, and so it's a bit of a pain using it that way. But I've gotten pretty good at being able to do combat and stuff. That seemed to be really the place that it hurt the most. All right, gang. Came here to paint a car. Paint a car I did. I think I'm pretty darn happy with this. Trying to think if there's anything I want to change. There's normally right here you want to have some sort of sponsorship, but I don't really want to put anything there. I've got everything else that's important already on the car. Sometimes you just overdo it with too many logos. So that is our Mind Trick Motorsports TV Simupad Ford Fusion. If any of my teammates want a Chevy version of it, just let me know. I should be able to copy over most of the graphics pretty easily. Thank you very much for watching, Ned and Mustafa and anyone else. It's been fun. I think I'm going to go turn on the real Daytona 500, which I think is starting in about 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm going to go watch that and have a beer. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope this was helpful if you want to learn how to paint cars. I enjoy doing this. It's a good creative outlet, and I like making new things. So I will catch you guys on the flip side.